Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our ongoing conversation on the magic of solopreneurship with the terrific trio. That's the three of us, if you are wondering. I'm your host, Meenakshi Iyer, founder and principal of NorthStar Solutions and Services, LLC, which is a virtual coaching, training, and consulting practice physically located in Virginia in the US. And with me are my two amazing friends and also fellow solopreneurs, Tiffany Castagno, founder and CEO of Zephyr LLC, based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Kim Meninger, founder and coach and TEDx speaker and a whole bunch. And I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit too. And Kim is based outside of Boston in Massachusetts. And so we are all on the East Coast in the US. And we've been on this journey of solopreneurship for varying amounts of time. And this is our second year in a row doing this during the holiday season here in the US. And we're absolutely thrilled to be here again together. This is like a bit of a end of the year party for us. And then we love to share our experience of being a solopreneur with the world so that any of you that are budding solopreneurs or aspiring solopreneurs or on your journey that you have, we hope that you will have some takeaways. So first of all, welcome to everyone that's joining us live. So we are live on multiple channels between the three of us. So you can find us live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we'd love for you to hop in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from and what's your current, how you experiencing your solopreneurship journey. So we'd love to hear from you. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Tiffany. Tiffany, please go ahead and introduce yourself and share a little bit more of your journey and how 2023 has been. And then we'll kick it off to Kim.
Sure. Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's a party. It's a year-end party. We were celebrating backstage a little bit. So I'm excited to be here. I'm Tiffany Castagno. I'm CEO and founder of Zephyr LLC, which is an HR and culture consultancy based in Pittsburgh, as Meenakshi had said. And I really partner with small to medium businesses to help them build their infrastructure, but also to engage and retain their team. So we're looking to build those strong cultures where people want to stay, not run away. And that's a lot of fun. It's also been a year of just discovery and learning new things and getting to, I guess, explore personally, but then also on the business side and really working towards automation and shoring up my own infrastructure as I'm telling, or helping to support clients with. But it's been really a busy year. I guess my 2023, in a nutshell, has looked like, really busy spring, first half of summer, which was anticipated. And then all of a sudden fall just kind of exploded on me. But it brought unexpected speaking engagements, other opportunities, some lessons I got to learn in the DEIB space, and just a whole lot of fun. I hired my assistant in the summer. So we've really been looking to streamline a bunch of stuff and kick off 24 strong, but more on that later.
Thank you, Tiffany. Kim.
So I'm Kim Meninger. I am also very excited to be here having this conversation. And I am a leadership coach, consultant, speaker, and all of my services are designed to help people navigate what I call what is hard, what makes it hard to be a human in the workplace. Right? So it's all about those sort of anxiety, inducing experiences, things that we're not quite sure how to handle, like imposter syndrome, lack of psychological safety, interpersonal conflicts. I always joke that it's not the work that gets in our way, it's the people. Right?
So true.
It's how to manage ourselves in relationship to ourselves and others. And so this has been, it's funny, as I was listening to you talk, Tiffany, I was thinking, wow, 2023 has been a lot longer than I thought. I'm like, oh, wow, sorry. If we go back to the beginning, that feels like 5 years ago.
Yes.
This year, like one of the highlights of this year was my opportunity to go to Bali for a leadership development program that I've been doing that's focused on empowering women in Southeast Asia in the energy sector. And that feels like a lifetime ago. And it was just like such an amazing way to kick off this year. And I think because we are sort of at least technically out of the pandemic, right? There have been more opportunities to do face-to-face. And that has been really energizing. As much as I enjoy being home and not having to be on the road, I do love the energy of being in the room with other people. And so the opportunity to do more of that this year, I was actually just traveling last week or the week before. I can't even remember now. I did a couple face-to-face, and I love to like strategically sprinkle in those opportunities, because there's nothing like sharing the room with other people. And so so I think that was one of the highlights of this year. And then of course, the standard as a solopreneur, having to wear all the hats and trying to figure out how to balance all of the different responsibilities is still a work in progress for me all these years later.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can relate.
Yeah. And Kim, I think between the three of us, you've been doing this the longest, yeah? Is it more than 10 years now, right?
Yeah, it's been 12 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's another thing that feels like both a lifetime and a second,
Yes, I can totally relate to that. And I do want to call that out for folks that are watching us live and folks that will catch the recording later, is that the three of us, we are in different points in our journey. So Kim, she just shared, she's been doing this for a dozen years now. And Tiffany, you started right in the middle of the pandemic, yeah?
Yeah,
May of 2020.
May 11th will be 4 years for me. Yep.
Yeah, and I started maybe just a few months before you, so August of 2019. So August of 2024 will be 5 years since I've been doing this, and so we're all in different points in our journey, and I feel like I have a lot in that intersects with both of you. So I also serve as a leadership coach, but my focus is on mid-level leaders. So my whole work is dedicated to, as I call it, unpacking leadership at the messy middle. And for me, it's about focusing on mid-level leaders with particular focus on women in technology and folks like myself who speak English as an additional language. So for me, the middle means a lot of different things, from a point of view of hierarchy within organizations, and then also cultural identities and language-based identity as well. So it's really in the messy middle is that's my sweet spot, and also from a point of view of intersection of people, business, and technology, because that's the kind of career experience that I've had over the last 25 years. And, for me, 2023 in a nutshell was all about exploring new opportunities and, of course, my India trip. And that was a big highlight of my year, because this was the longest I'd been away from home, as in here in the US. I was away for 6 weeks, and I moved to the States 15 years ago, and I've never done this where I've been away from home for more than 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So it felt it was rejuvenating, and also I was able to meet a lot of people that I've collaborated with virtually in person, meet them in person for the first time. And that was an amazing experience. So I was able to relate to you, Kim, as you were saying, you said strategically sprinkling in-person experiences. I think I've done that a lot this year. And so I think the highlight of the year for me has been the integration of my work and my personal and professional life, and finding opportunities. And I realized that if I look for them, I find them pretty easily. So recently I was with my husband, and I went to the UK for a friend's wedding in Scotland. And we did a pit stop in London just so that both of us could catch up with some of our old friends. And I was also able to meet someone in person for the first time with whom I've been collaborating for the last 4 years. And it's just been absolutely amazing to do that. So 2023 for me has been about new opportunities, because this was also the first time I had my first in-person speaking opportunity at an Agile conference in India, in Pune, which is like my hometown. And so that was a wonderful experience. And to be able to do that and reconnect with the tech community in Pune, because I used to live and work there almost 20 years ago. So that was a fantastic experience. I do want to, I have a few questions to ask of both of you and then share some. And then I'm seeing some comments here. So we have Steve join us. Hello, Steve. Thank you for joining. Yeah, and we'd love to hear your questions as well and your thoughts as we go along. So thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask, and Tiffany, I'm going to start off with you. I know 2023, that a lot has happened. What is like the one thing that comes to mind that you're really proud of?
I'd love to talk about a good win. That's why we have our confetti here, right? But, and that's one thing too, that I think is important. It's important to celebrate, because we all just listed all this stuff we're doing. And I can relate to the strategically sprinkling eggs. I've been doing some traveling, and that's great. For me, I think I was just sharing with you both backstage that I am officially on my sabbatical. I'm taking a 3.5-week sabbatical. So as of 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone yesterday, I am off the grid. And that feels good, because I have not ever done that besides, Meenakshi, you said being away from home like 2-3 weeks. I've, outside of holidays or vacation where you're kind of in this routine, but you're coming back to something, and
Yes.
It's a little bit in your head, right? And so now I feel like to be able to have that time to really have creativity, innovation, figure out what's Zephyr 4.0 and Zephyr 5.0. And it's just a really good, honestly, empowering feeling, because I think especially as a solopreneur, we feel like we have to be doing it all. We do have to sometimes do it all, even with an assistant. I'm doing a lot. And I think that trying to, marry those social constructs, or the construct of what work is supposed to look like, to wait a minute, this is my business and my clients are well taken care of. I have notified them 3 months in advance that this is coming. They're taken care of. So the opportunity to nurture myself and frankly, my business, right? Because we've done, actually a lot around burnout. The three of us have talked a lot about that together. And I think that it's important to let people know, take your time off. When you're off, be off. And it's healthy. And so that for me is like, this is like never done before. Next year, I want it to be even longer. So that's what I'm most proud of. I'm proud of myself.
That's wonderful. That's fantastic. And could not agree with you more about the need to celebrate and really take the time to do that, because oftentimes we're after the next thing, and we lose so much of the joy and the opportunity for growth and learning if we just keep focused on the doing. So this is just fantastic, and that's one of the aspects of being a solopreneur that I so cherish, is being the boss of my own time, and being able to take the breaks that I need so that I can then come back stronger, both for myself, my business, and more importantly, my clients. So love that you're doing that for yourself. Absolutely fantastic. How about you, Kim?
I'm going to come back to what Tiffany said when we get to sort of lessons learned, because that's definitely something I'm still working on. But in terms of proudest moments, I would go back to my trip to Bali for a number of reasons. One was that I hate flying. I'm terrified of flying. Turbulence makes me feel like we're just going to plunge out of the sky. Like, I still haven't figured out the how the technology works. So the fact that we are in the air always feels like a miracle to me. And so the amount of fun I had to do to get to Bali was like, it changed my life and my relationship.
I remember some of those conversations and messages.
No, it was so daunting, and I feel like I have very sincerely adopted the quote from Eleanor Roosevelt that says, "Do something every day that scares you," because I am such an anxious person and I'm trying really hard to expand my comfort zone. And so this was a true test of like just travel all the way around the world. And I can remember landing in South Korea, and just you can see on the screen in front of you like the distance from where you started to where you are. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so far from home and I don't know anyone. And I'm like and it was such a scary feeling for me. And it made me appreciate at such a deeper level people like you, Meenakshi, who move here leave your home country behind and go someplace new. And, I am so invested in, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I just had this whole new appreciation for people who feel different from the culture around them. And so it was such an inspiring experience for me in many ways. I had the chance to meet people and connect with people that I would never have crossed paths with. Never. Because we were just totally different, not just geographies, but different industries. And, we just, every visible part of us was different religion, different, different race, different, like clothes, everything.
Yes.
But we had so much in common. And our conversations were so meaningful. And it was in the midst of all of the negativity of politics in this country and all of the divisiveness. It was one of those zoom out moments where you feel this, like, almost like it feeds your soul, right? It was like that reconnection to humanity that I needed to give me the faith to kind of keep going in this challenging moment. And I just come back to it whenever I start doubting the future and, start just banging my head against the wall about what's going on in the world. And I just feel like that was one of those moments that really changed my whole worldview.
That was so touching.
So meaningful.
Yes. Yeah. When you said that, it reminded me of this experience on our recent trip to the UK. So we were on the last leg of our trip, and we had just landed in Dublin, and we were thrilled that we could use public transport to get out of the airport and go to the hotel. And so we found our way to the bus, and once we got on the bus, we realized that our credit cards won't work, and they needed exact change to buy the ticket. So we were like, let's get off. And so we had just turned around, and each of us had our luggage, and we were trying to get off, and there were two gentlemen behind us who said, "Just wait, what happened?" And we said, we can't buy it. No, just hang on. And they bought us the tickets. And I said, "How am I going to pay you back?" He said, "It's all done." And off we went upstairs. It was a double-decker bus, and it was just that moment. It's not about how expensive or not the tickets were. It was just the thought that this person didn't even take a millisecond to think about it and saw what was happening and chose to respond in this way. Yeah. It was just amazing. And then we didn't know how to, because we didn't have the local currency on us at the time. And all we did was, I was hoping that we were able to at least say our thanks to them before we dropped off at some point in that bus journey. And it turned out that we were the first ones to get off before those two guys. So we got off, and we were able to, wave at them and say thank you. And it was just that memory. And that's going to stay with us, because we had a lot of other not so great experiences as well, like places where we felt like, we're just being, we're probably just being tolerated. We're not exactly welcome. We had those moments as well. And we couldn't tell, is it us? Like, is it all in our head, or is it really happening? We couldn't tell. But everything that you shared, Kim, about, how all the negativity in the world, and in the midst of all this, it's so important to look for these opportunities of true human connection, and what they, the huge positive impact that it can have. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Really, it just made me reflect on my own experience as well. Yeah.
Thank you too, because that I'm gonna live vicariously through it. All those moments, those just small moments, they're so simple, but they mean so much, especially now. And so I think you're just to be looking for them and acknowledging them when they happen. They're kind of, I find them to be that extra charge that you need to just kind of get you through the next stretch of chaos and frustration.
Absolutely.
So true. That's why travel's good for the soul. Right?
Yes.
And just those little things. Like, and if we can pay that forward too, right? Like,
Exactly.
I had a man,
exactly.
and some of us got stuck in a parking structure. Like we couldn't pay, like we needed to pay to get out. He paid for mine. And I was like, you have to do this like $10, right? But to your point, Meenakshi, it's not the point. It's that connection, that human connection to do nice things. And it's like, if we all keep doing that, it just magnifies and ripples, which is really cool. And it does restore you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. So what's the one thing that didn't go to plan?
We both just start laughing.
I know. I'm like, oh, what do you mean one thing?
Only one?
I know. I have a list.
Scroll.
It's what we call a living document.
That's a good one.
Oh my goodness. Do you want to start, Tiffany, or you want me to take that one?
Take it away.
The one with the scroll wins.
Well, yeah, and so I can spend all day just trying to choose from the long list, but I'll pick the one that's most, most recent in my memory. And Meenakshi, I was talking to you about this offline earlier. I get really enthusiastic about my work, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've had, but I'm not very good at time management. And I have learned a big lesson this year about pacing. And so what I found was these last couple of months were incredibly stressful because I was putting too much back to back. I wasn't creating enough space to catch my breath. I wasn't like literally creating enough space between meetings to the point where I was like racing down the highway to get from one meeting back to my office so I can be on a Zoom call, worried that I was going to be late. And as someone with a lot of anxiety, my system does not respond well to that kind of pressure. And so, when I thought about it afterwards, I thought, and you had said this earlier, Meenakshi, too, of like being your own boss. And my husband says this to me all the time. He's like, how can you're the one who sets your own schedule. Like, you don't have anyone to blame but yourself, right? He's like, you can't complain if you're not willing to do something about it. And that's kind of a wake-up call for me, is that I have a tendency sometimes to feel like if something comes up, I just have to do it, as opposed to saying, well, can we do that at a later date or a later time? And just to spread things out a little bit more so that I'm not so tightly wound. Because then what happened in November was I finally had a chance to rest at Thanksgiving, and I got sick, and I was like sick for, and I think it's because I was not taking care of myself. I was not resting and just trying to plow through all of this time. And so I think for 2024, I definitely want to think differently about the way I manage my time, manage my calendar, and sort of set expectations about what's possible.
Yes. I do want to share something here. And as any of you solopreneurs out there watching right now or watching the replay, there is technology that can help you do this when you schedule your time. A lot of us do have open public calendars, either Calendly or something else that we use as a scheduling tool where folks can book time with you. There are features that will let you set buffers between meetings. So use technology to help you do that so that you don't end up with back-to-back meetings. And you can choose what the duration of that buffer needs to be. You can control the number of meetings you'll take in a day. So you can set all these controls on your calendar to do that. So you don't even have to then think about it. But I totally get what you're saying, Kim, when you're interspersing in-person events and virtual events and travel and all that, it can quickly get to a lot. Just yesterday, Akua, who's one of our, again, solopreneur camp folks, who's based in Accra, Ghana, I saw her post yesterday and how she talked about her own experience trying to do that. And it really, and I was connecting the dots with our offline conversation as well, Kim. And then I think sometimes we overestimate our ability to manage different things, and that comes from a place of service, because we also want to be available to our clients, both current and prospective, as much as possible. And then we find ourselves kind of not being able to then take care of ourselves in the process.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great call out. You, Tiffany.
Yeah, I'm still just
something that didn't go to plan from your living document.
I'm still sitting in the yes. How did my calendar get like this? You did this to yourself. And so that will be part of my reflection during this sabbatical, which is why I'm taking time back. But I think too, it's all of that, right? And it's like, oh, well, I thought I could, I have to be over here, but then I have to be back. And then you get swept up in conversations there. Whoop, I gotta go home and get on the Zoom, or run from one client to the other. And we have so much more control. And to the point about the calendar quickly, and then I'll move on. But I think it's important to understand too. So one of the things that I have had to be very intentional about is like, I sent my clients something like, I need you to help me like schedule on my calendar. Like this email back and forth really doesn't work, because if I'm left to it, I need accountability to not be doing that. Like I have an assistant, I have this calendar tool that it's really easy to schedule yourself. Even for networking calls or people I know, I've gotten better about it. Now I don't always do it, but that is one tip too, is just don't feel like you have to be the center. Like that, to Meenakshi's point, is what those tools are for. And you don't have to take every call. You can like see what that looks like. So my one thing that didn't go to plan, at least the one I'll share today, is so I had planned in 2022, I had a summer intern. I had planned for that in 2023. I am very intentional about the employee experience and onboarding and making, bringing humanity to work. And so I had my intern who was planned, who I made an offer to for 2023, decline at the last minute, like literally 11:59 p.m. on the day. And so I was like, oh no, no intern, the prospective intern is not there. But meanwhile, I had spent all these hours, right, that could be used for client time or time in the community or strategic space to plan. And so I was like bumming about that. And then I'm like, it wasn't meant to be. You're super busy and this person would have needed your time and devotion. And then you probably really would have felt scrambled. So I chose to take this and use it as an opportunity to, once I hired the assistant, we repurposed some of that work over there. And some of it, I'm just like, does it have to be done right now? And I punted it to this summer. And I'm hoping to invite another intern to work with me this summer, but that was hard. Like, I kind of was like, oh, if it doesn't work out, I'm really busy anyway. But I was like excited, and as a social media and marketing intern, so I was like really excited to like do some of that stuff. And then I was like, it just wasn't meant to be, right? So sometimes we have to learn that lesson too. That we don't have. It was another moment to take that pause. Like it was not meant to be. Like we didn't need to shove so much into 1 year or 1 quarter.
That's a great call out to pace ourselves, and that's kind of like one of the challenges of being a solopreneur, because when you have a team, when you work full time, or even as an entrepreneur, if you have a team, then you have someone readily available to bounce ideas off of, to kind of do a checks and balances. But as a solopreneur, it can be challenging. I definitely feel that. I feel like, and this was something, Kim, you and I talked about in our offline conversation a couple of days ago. When you look around and you look at what everyone else is doing, especially if they're in the same space as you, I definitely struggle with that. Then I'm like, okay, am I supposed to be doing that? Is that the way to be more effective, generate more business? I don't know if that's going to work for me until I try it. But then trying it means I need to invest time and energy, and it takes me away from something else. So how do I make that choice of, okay, I need to invest in this and not in that? And that's an ongoing struggle. And so, for example, for me, I don't use any other social media channels other than LinkedIn and a little bit of Facebook and YouTube. I put a lot of my content on YouTube, like this live stream. And I think it's my own sort of being okay with it, that I'm like, okay, I consider, I'm like, should I be looking at making TikTok videos, for instance? Because I know there's a lot of L&D work, learning and development work, that's happening on TikTok. Um, and I know what it takes to make videos, because I do that. I record and I do the editing. I do a whole 9 yards by myself, and I know how much it takes to get there. And so it had to be a conscious decision for me to say, okay, even if I'm going to lose out on some potential business, that's not something I can do on a sustainable basis. And so I decided not to do that. But then to get there it took me a few months and several conversations with myself, really, to get there. Anyway, the other thing around things that didn't go to plan, yes, I have all of those scrolls and living documents and all of that as well. A couple of big things. I think the one thing that it affected, also obviously it affected my revenues or the cash flow, is because there was one. There was a repeat business that was supposed to have come through this year, and there have been a big chunk of my revenues, and I was banking on it, and that didn't come through because of different decisions that were made at the organization. The good news is that they're still interested. It's just that they didn't manage to budget for it in 2023. So we'll see what happens next year. And then, so it was mostly along the same lines. There were a couple of very strong leads where I'd had the initial meeting and the proposal had been sent, and then nothing further happened. And what I want to share, what I want to call out here is that, again, for our audience is, as a solopreneur and especially a service-based business, every single no or every single ghosting episode can feel like the end of the world, because it's usually a one-person team. We are one-person teams that is doing all of the work. So there's a lot of effort that goes into the pre-sales, this actual sales cycle, and then the delivery of the work as well, right? And so for me, I think I got to a point where I'm so ready to do the work now, right? I'm feeling a little bit tired from the whole pre-sales and the sales cycle. But at the same time, I'm not at a point where I can outsource this to someone as of yet, right? So that's been my biggest challenge this year, of still staying consistent, staying my course, and continuing to believe that my work matters, what I do matters, and then the right people to receive my work are still out there. But then, making my way towards them. So that's been my challenge.
And I think one thing that's really important as a solopreneur too is because it is personal. It feels so personal, right?
Yes.
When you're selling something on behalf of a company, there's some emotional distance between you and the product. But when you are selling a service and you are the service, right, it feels like the rejection, right, feels really strong, and it's hard to maintain your confidence and to maintain your motivation. And so to recognize that in your examples, Meenakshi, of companies, having an interest, but maybe pulling back, is there's a lot that we can't see that's going on behind the scenes. There are a lot of economic forces that are sort of dictating what people are willing to invest in and when. And so trying to separate our own value and making sure that we continue to believe in ourselves, even if we're bumping up against these roadblocks.
Yes. So well said. Then thank you for articulating that. Yes, absolutely. And I did experience all of that. My confidence did take a big hit. And then, see, the other thing also for me is like I focus on the tech industry and look at the state of affairs in the tech industry, right? And I don't know what. So honestly, I don't know what 2024 is going to look like because I don't know what to think of it at the moment. I mean, there's no amount of strategizing on my part that's going to help me get through this. So I have to really take it as it comes and figure out how to diversify my revenue sources. So that's something that I am investing time in thinking. Yeah. Yeah, but that's true, and also, and that's the same challenge that most of us as solopreneurs face when pricing, right? Because and that was something I discovered in a peer coaching conversation, that one of the main reasons I was struggling uh, with pricing and pricing, uh, demanding a demanding the price that my work deserves, is because it turns out that I feel like I'm asking money for myself,
Mm-hmm.
even though I was providing services in return, right? So it didn't feel like a business transaction. It felt very personal. And so then I was forcing myself to think more about um, how much my clients could afford, instead of thinking about the value I bring to the table. Especially so in the one-on-one coaching segment, I really struggled with that a lot, because everything felt very personal.
Yeah, that is a constant challenge. I think partly because it's really difficult to find objective sources of information about what like a market rate is
Yes,
service that
yes.
you offer. And so oftentimes, at least for me, I feel like I'm making it up. I don't know, is this appropriate? Right. Like I have no idea. And so that's another benefit of having, friends who are also doing this work, because you can talk about it and get a sense of, is this in the ballpark? Is it, and be able to strategize a bit, and especially having friends on the inside too. Like I have a
Yeah.
friend who has been able to help me, because she's one data point, but she's able to say like, this is what we've paid other people
Mm,
do this kind of work. And so at least it's a bit of a gut check. Like it's not just totally out of thin air.
yes, yes.
Yeah. And I had a couple clients who, same thing, like, oh, this is typically, what's your budget? This is typically what we've paid people. And I was like, that is so helpful. And it was within range, which was great. I even had a client once in the very beginning who was like, send this back to me and, mark it up by this much. And I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
In the very beginning. And I'm way, way beyond that now, but just the power behind that, and like the ability to be able to test. I mean, we can beat ourselves up all day, like, oh, I should have, charged more, or oh, they ghosted me. Is it because I charged too much? Right. You just got to put something out there and calibrate how you can. Because I feel, Kim, when you said sometimes you feel like you're making it up, I'm like, that feels like I get my value, and it feels like a good value for them, and it seems aligned with the market. Let's go. Let's figure it out. They'll tell me if
Yes.
it's too much, or maybe
Yes.
we're not meant to work together, right?
Mhm.
So that's an important message I think we can share too, because pricing is one of the hardest pieces.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just wanted to do a quick time check, and then also take a moment to welcome everyone that's watching us, that's just joined us. If you've just joined us, we love to call ourselves a terrific trio, and we're all solopreneurs. So we are talking about the magic of solopreneurship, and this is the third conversation in our series that we've been doing ever since the last holiday season, and we met earlier this year in August. And you can find all those conversations on my YouTube channel, and I think even on Tiffany's, on the Suffer YouTube channel as well. So the three of us, we have offline conversations as well. That's how we really started. And then we said, how about we bring this to the world, and hence this live stream. So we want to pay it forward as solopreneurs, and this is open to all you solopreneurs out there, particularly those of you in the service business. This particular conversation, the end of the year conversation, we usually use it as a time to reflect, to celebrate, to uplift each other between the three of us. And we hope that you find these conversations of value. And we welcome we invite you to reach out to us on LinkedIn if you have any other questions, or if you want to have further conversations. We're all open to that as well. And today we're talking about, we're doing a look back on 2023. So far, we have talked about our highlights and some things that didn't go to plan. And in the next 20 odd minutes, we'll be looking at what does 2024 look like? What are we thinking about? So along those lines, I wanted to ask each of you, what is the one thing that you're going to do less of or more of in 2024? Tiffany?
Well, we've talked about one of them, which is the time and space. And, I think even when you put in those buffers, you can run into, wait a minute, how did this calendar get this full? And you start to reflect back on, who am I meeting with? How have I spent my time? What's important on how I use my time? And so I've just been in the last couple of years, certainly more intentional with how I spend my time, who I allow access. And so I want to get deeper into that even more in 24 to vet that, really. I mean, we all get those LinkedIn spam messages, or the people who pop onto the public facing calendars and they want to talk about partnership or collaboration. And I'm like, that's no longer really fully acceptable to me. Like, I need to dig in more and ask questions, because I've gotten the sales pitches. I've done a pretty good job of vetting around that, but you don't have to take every call or email that comes your way. There's one person who always wants to make an introduction to people, but she's kind of getting something out of it too. And so I said, here's how I prefer that we handle this in the future moving forward, because we have to realize we are the ones in control of our schedule, and my clients deserve that time. My community deserves that time. I deserve that time. My family and friends deserve that. And I can't be burnt to a crisp in burnout running around doing all these other things. So that's definitely something that, I want to do more of in 24. And then I think, part of this sabbatical will be in terms of like doing what I want to do less of, just to like, there's certain bodies of work that don't belong in my bucket anymore. And as I'm building a team, understanding that I need to work to pivot that, and I'm getting better at delegating, but to strategically do that so I can work in the strategic spaces where I love the most, and frankly, where I have the most impact for my clients, but making sure they're still taken care of. So I have no idea what that looks like really, but I'm going to figure it out.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Everything Tiffany said.
That's
I definitely am on the same page with you regarding the time piece and just taking more control of that. I also want to, and this is not something that I think I can do overnight, but I'm going to try to do this in the next few weeks too, just to reflect on my why, not as it relates to the work I do, but as it relates to the, let's call it marketing that I do. Because I feel like I have some really great relationships already. I have had a very sustainable business for years, but there's still a voice in my head that keeps telling me you need to be out there more. You need to do more. And I think part of it is the voices that I listen to. Part of it is that fear of missing out, right? And so to your earlier point, Meenakshi, I'm like constantly, should I be on TikTok? Should I be doing more on Instagram? Should I write a book? Should I do, it's like all of these pressure points that I don't actually do anything with, but they're constantly in my head nagging at me like I should be writing articles and I should be writing a book and I should be doing all these things that aren't necessarily intrinsically motivating to me. And so I have to keep asking myself the question of the question my husband always asks me, which is like, what's the end game here? Like, what is it you're trying to do? And I haven't figured out yet whether this is just me responding to social pressure and me just trying to do as much as possible, or if there's actually a gap that I'm trying to fill.
Wow. That's a lot of deep reflection to be done there.
Yeah. And I haven't had time to even think about it. So
I hear you.
Yes. Yeah. Everything both of you said resonates with me a lot. The time piece particularly. And Tiffany, I will say that in the second half of this year, I became really aware of it. And it also has a lot to do with me choosing to invest in working with a marketing coach, Jennifer Schaller. And she's been a huge source of, a fresh set of eyes looking at everything from the outside and asking me those questions of like, why are you doing that? And how does it serve you? and she really helped me sort of bring the focus back, help me with the messaging aspect. So Kim, that you're talking about, the marketing piece, and I understand not for you, it's not not so much as the external, but more in terms of where would you like to take the brand next, and what's the end game, like your husband was talking about. And so the focusing on time and really doing an audit of what I'm, because I feel like I know this. I give away a lot of stuff for free, and that's who I am. And so for me to like, I realize that I don't have to stop being that, but I just have to rein that in a bit, right? Because otherwise I won't be true to who I am. And so because there's a lot of people that I support within my network, people that reach out to me, then and then I'm like, oh, that is how I'm spending my time. A text exchange can take about half an hour, 40 minutes, but then it's really a coaching session that I'm doing, right? So I've really started observing how I'm spending my time, and at the same time, how can I stay true to who I am? And that's like an ongoing thing. And what I want to do more of next year is to really think about what can I do less of, to be honest. I don't think I question myself. So this year, my whole thing, and some of the messages that I've put out on LinkedIn as well, is about what should I stop doing? And in organizations, in teams, and as us as individuals, we are constantly fed that more is better, bigger is better, and that's what we aspire towards. So I'm really trying to think about, okay, what is the one or two things that I should focus on? So what I want to do more of is to really scale back on the different number of things that I do, but then, like Jennifer had pointed out, making sure that even if I do 5 things, are they all feeding to that one thing? And if they are not, then I really got to reevaluate what is it that I want to do. So and the other piece for 2024 for me is to one, I want to invest in my professional development as a coach. So there's something that I would want to take on, an additional certification course that I want to take on in the first quarter. But then I also want to, and this was something, Kim, that came out of our conversation when you helped me reframe something. Going after the kind of clients that can truly benefit from my work. So as much as I believe in the value of attracting the kind of people that you want to work with rather than chasing, I understand that. But in order to attract the right kind of people, I need to become more consistent in the type of content I create and the type of messaging that I put out there. And this year has helped me learn that I'm very scattered. And that's a reflection of the diverse interests that I have. And so then I'm like, oh, I want to make a statement about that. I want to make a statement about equity. I want to make a statement about accent bias. And I want to make a statement about pay equity. But then and this is exactly what Jennifer pointed out in one of our conversations, our coaching conversations is, but for your customer, for your potential customer, all of that may sound good, but it's very confusing. Like what should they do with you? Like, why should they talk to you, right? So bringing that focus in I can have all these interests, but at the end of the day, if I'm talking about unpacking leadership at the messy middle, how am I focusing all of that back to that? So that's going to be my focus for 2024.
I love that.
Yeah. I'm going to work with Jennifer next year. I'm excited.
Yeah.
After break, we're going to have a party.
I am so excited for that. Yes.
Me too.
She really knows what she's doing.
She's been so supportive already. She's amazing. So yes, I can't wait.
I'm so happy to hear that. Yes. See, that's the power of these kind of the conversations that the three of us are having. We share our experiences, we support each other, and we give each other feedback. And so for anyone that's watching now or later, we want you to know that the Terrific Trio has a lot of offline conversations as well. So we keep in touch. We check each other's work, if you will, and we provide each other feedback. There's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of generosity. There's a lot of openness. Kim, I still remember last year, I think it was, one of our offline conversations. This was that was actually one of the turning points where we said we should take this live, like we should take this public. When we talked about, hey, what about these speaking engagements? How do you price them? Remember that conversation?
Yes,
vividly.
Right?
That was the seed for this conversation. Yeah.
Yes, and I remember, I was so hesitant to ask you that question because between the three of us, I had seen you do speaking more speaking engagements, and I'm like, I don't want to ask you this, but I don't know if it's okay to ask because we are programmed to not talk about salary, for example, right? So it's the same thing, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this, and I did ask, and boy, was I so warmly surprised with the generosity that you shared the whole thing. You shared your rate card, and we talked about it, and then here we are. So, and you did that again, like earlier this week when I pinged you and I said, "Look, I think I'm losing it. I need a conversation." And you shared your capability statement template. Actually, that's a great segue. I want to. Can you share a little bit more about? This would be a great piece of advice for other solopreneurs out there. The importance of that one pager.
Yeah. So I had another proud moment that I forgot about was that I became a certified woman-owned business this year, which was much more sort of rigorous process than I was expecting. It was very time-consuming, required a lot of information, but one of the benefits was that I was able to participate in a supplier diversity matchmaking event where I was able to have conversations one-on-one with procurement people and people who match, outside resources to internal needs. And they consistently ask me, send me your capability statement. In my mind, I know that means something very specific to the government, but I wasn't sure what it meant to, these were more, regular corporations. And so I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I really need to boil this down to one page because to your point earlier, Meenakshi, it's like, we can do lots of things. We can have lots of conversations, but what are you actually talking about? Right? And so I actually found a template on Etsy and I just made it my own. And it was a great opportunity for me to reflect on what some of the highlights were. What are some of the things that I've done that I want to do more of that I can promote more prominently on this page? And, gives you a space to put your credentials and all the other information so that when someone's looking at it, it's all right there in front of them. And so I just feel like liberated. I'm like, oh, now anytime I have a conversation, I have something to share, right? It's like simple, it's right there. And so, so that was a big milestone for me the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so we encourage all of you out there to do something similar. And, you can just, there are templates that are available online that you can look at, or you can buy one like Kim did. And actually, Kim, when you talked about that, and I messaged you about that, it reminded me that I had attempted to do this. I didn't call it a capability statement. I just built a one-pager, and this was about 2 or 3 years ago when I was still very new. And I was like, oh, this is a great time for me to go revisit that and freshen it up, ready for 2024. So that really inspired me. Oh, sorry. I got distracted with some chats coming through here. So.
Yeah, Maria is probably because of her work, but knows, hi, good morning. A precise and compact information display. Yes. And I've been a certified minority business enterprise for 3-4 years now, almost 4 years, I think. Yeah, it's great. But like you're trying to figure out what to do. And all this time, until someone was like ready to make an introduction. They're like, where's your capability statement? I'm like, I gave you my brochure. She's like, no. This means something, to Kim's point, very specific. So I was all stressed out and I'm like, Canva, let's go on Canva. Surely they have a template. They have a template for everything. And so I just did my first one in October, November. So, and it needs refinement, but hey, we put it out there and we
living document, right?
Living document. Solopreneurs are living documents.
Yes, well said.
They're works in progress.
Yes. You know, being a solopreneur is it is such a cross-functional role, all in one person, right? You know, strategy and implementing the strategies of marketing and social media marketing, your content, your the sales, the accounting, and tech. Like for someone like me who's 100% virtual, or at least prefers to be more virtual than in person, figuring out my tech stack and then investing time in the user journey while using your web platform, whatever it may be, and then making sure what is the experience like when somebody's using a mobile phone versus somebody's using their laptop or a tablet. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into it. And so we actually make very good candidates for full-time roles.
Yes.
We have to figure it out. Yes, that pays a lot. Yes, absolutely.
These are skills and art form.
Yes.
Oh gosh, Maria, it breathes.
Yes,
I love that.
A living document that breathes.
Yes, so funny and amazing.
I know we are coming up to the end of the top of the hour here. Hard to believe.
I know.
So as we begin to wrap up, I'd love to go around and, you know, if you can quickly share your top one or two intentions that you're setting for 2024, and then before we end, I'd love to hear any words of advice that you have for other solopreneurs out there.
Yeah, I think for me, I always choose this word of the year, but I really want to stick to it this year. Like focus, you know, not being so scattered and feeling so pressured to be all over the place, but just really being focused. And, you know, I think in terms of advice, it's don't do it alone. Obviously there's a lot that we do alone, but there is a lot that we can learn from each other. And there, you know, there's very little that I miss about my corporate life, but it's what I miss most is having colleagues and, you know, people that you can bounce things off of, that you can not have to recreate the wheel. And that's the magic of this group, and just never feel, it can feel isolating sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. And so reach out, ask the questions you're afraid to ask. And, and if you're feeling stuck, just there's somebody out there who's already figured this out.
Yes.
Yeah. Plus one, that's my words of advice. Like, find those thought leaders, collaborators, friends, partners, like we have in each other, build up that community. And that's really what's helped boost the business. I'm so humble and grateful that I get to do this work alongside people like Kim and Meenakshi and just other folks. It's great. We're never, ever alone in this. And just, it's hard to make that translation when you come out of corporate, because like you, Kim, that's kind of the only thing I miss at times. And, you know, but there's so much opportunity to invite those new perspectives that maybe wasn't always there, that lacked in my corporate experience. But Kim, like you, I only started this in the pandemic, these words of intentionality, I call them. I never believed in them per se, but they really helped me focus in my own business. And mine for 2024 is surrender, which means more delegating, more automation behind the scenes, but not taking away that human aspect, not trying to over control, and just putting something out there, seeing what sticks, and just leaning more into my faith, and stopping fighting that process, which I know Jennifer will help me with. So that's where I'm planning to head in 24. I will count on you two to keep me accountable.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks, Maria.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Maria. Absolutely right. For me, so first of all, I think I'm very fortunate to have this group, this trio, the Terrific Trio, and I have two other such trios. I don't know if I've told you that.
Cheating.
I know I'm cheating a bit.
We
I'm just
feel
greedy. And in my head,
more the
you know,
better.
one day I'm going to get all the trios together. I already
Oh,
have the
yes.
visual. So the other two trios, there's one. Then they're from my tech community, so Women in Agile community. Anjali Leon and Lakshmi Ramaseshan, and we are all from the southern part of India, from different states, but from the southern part of India. And two of us, we speak the same language, Tamil, but then there's a lot of other similarities as well. So we call ourselves the wise South Indian sisters.
That.
Yes, we know we are wise, and that's all that matters. So,
You are. You're all lovely.
and so we have an asynchronous text chat going on all the time, and so we can connect whenever we want. And you know, there's so we they both help me a lot. I consider them mentors, so they help me a lot in my work, in my content, in marketing, all of that. Then the third trio that I have is we call ourselves the expat solopreneurs, and that's with Kwan Segal and Nanapat Sage. They're both originally from Thailand, and so all three of us have moved here because of our spouses or because of studies or work or other reasons, and we are all in service-based businesses. And so that's the other trio, and so I feel so fortunate to be able to have these different communities, and we all have different perspectives, and we share resources, we share lessons learned, our scrolls and living documents of things that didn't go to plan. Hey, I tried this and failed miserably. Here's what I learned. So do not do that. Or hey, this worked and go do that. So that's been I've gained so much from that, and it's I'm incredibly grateful for that. And then there is also this. It's not a trio, but it's another large community. It's a professional women community called Lean and Agile, co-founded by two women of Indian descent, based in the U.S. And I'm one of the volunteers there, and I've been with them for the last 3-4 years. And we meet once a month virtually. We have a meetup, and we do a lot of that work. We did our virtual holiday party on Thursday, and we did the whole thing about what's your word for 2024. And I actually chose two. They're related, but they mean different things to me. Decisions and choices. Because I have to make a lot of decisions in terms of, bringing the focus, blah, 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 all of that stuff that I talked about. And then before I make a decision, I have to make some choices as well before I decide which to pick. So it's going to be a year of reflection, and also quite a bit of pivoting will be needed. So I have to do a lot of shedding, right? So a lot of letting go, a lot of doing less of, and then so that's where all those choices and decisions. That's what came up for me. So that's what I'm going to stick with. And with that, I think we are a little bit over time here. But in terms of advice, I think it's reach out, look for your communities. You can find us. And Maria, all our conversations are recorded. So you can either come back to the same spot on LinkedIn, or you can go to Tiffany's or my YouTube channels, and you'll find our previous conversations and today's conversation as well. And I see you said tech stack. It's the technology stack. So tech stack, meaning so you have your website, but then if somebody wants to purchase something, then they have to pay. So your payment gateway. So that's how it's called a stack. Yeah. I just want to check if there are any other questions here before we wrap up. Parting thoughts, parting words, Tiffany and Kim?
I'm just looking forward to what's next. I'm looking forward to unpacking this all with you all, to the surrender, to the living, scrolling, figuring it out, learning lessons, stumbling and getting right on back up. And that's, I guess, what I would leave everyone else with. Like, give yourself grace. in all that you do, because this is not easy and we are going to stumble, but you can get right back up, and building community will help you do that.
Yeah, and I would say,
speaking of stumbling, we're glad you stumbled here too.
That's right. And I would say give yourself grace and give yourself space, because I think that's a big theme of our conversation today too. And even just having a little bit of time to reflect and be intentional about what comes next is so important.
Yep. And I'll add, give yourself credit for all the good work that you've done. Take the time to reflect and celebrate the small wins. And I'm saying this as much for myself. Sometimes we tend to measure our success, whatever success means, in terms that have been defined by society and defined by our performance-oriented culture. So also look to see what new skills you've gained, how you've grown, things that you would have never done before, but you have done them and done them well. It doesn't matter if there's one person watching, 10 people watching. And Tiffany and Kim know this. Whenever I do anything public facing, webinar, live stream, whatever, I go in fully prepared just to talk to myself. And
I love that about you.
So, it doesn't matter if anybody else is watching or not. You know what you're doing. So, yeah, give yourself credit.
Wow. I always say grace and space, but you added this is why there's magic in this trio, and in having these conversations out there in your community. Now it's grace, space, and credit. Love it. Celebrating those wins. That's a good way to put it.
Absolutely. All right. Here's wishing all of you a wonderful holiday season, and mindful of the fact that the world seems a scary place, and there's several of us that are not as fortunate to have levity in our lives at the moment, and I do want to end on that note that we need to be thinking about everyone, and at the same time focusing on how do we live out our purpose, and staying focused on that, and hoping that if all of us did that, that would be enough to turn the tide. And so wishing everyone a restful holiday season, time to reflect, and time with family and friends as well, and happy holidays. And we will see you back here in 2024. Have a wonderful start to the new year as well.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Take care and be well.